we would be having one off case and one main case per webinar, and most probably we are planning to have 2 webinars per month. And we have a panel of experts in form of faculties or subject experts, as well as the coordinators. We would like to, I would like to hand over the session to Jignesh Teliwala sir for welcome address for this particular webinar. We welcome you, sir.
At the outset, I extend a warm welcome to all our teachers, coordinators, and PG students on this very first PG symposium. As an AOGS president, I will always be ready to help our PG students in their academics and keep them updated about the recent developments in OBGY. I hope by doing such symposiums every fortnightly, I hope it will organize according to our schedule. Each and every resident will gain the knowledge about the various clinical conditions. So without much delay, I would request that my team to start our first PG symposium. Dr. Munjal.
Yes, sir. Rohan bhai, can we have the CV slide of coordinators, please? Dr. Akshay sir, Dr. Kirtan, Dr. Shashwat bhai. So Dr. Akshay sir, we all know him. He is such a graceful personality and generous enough to teach everyone and each of his students, as well as he is always ready to help every damn obstetrician who is practicing in Ahmedabad. He is associate professor at NHL Municipal Medical College and SVP Hospital, and his area of interest is high risk pregnancy. We welcome you, sir. Next CV, please. My dear friend and colleague, Dr. Kirtan Vyas, he has a lot of achievements on his name. He is Gujarat University first gold medalist, Gujarat Public Service Commission first, fellow in gynec endoscopy, and USD from FOXI. Publications in various international index journals and contributed chapters in books. Faculty at many state and national conferences. Recipient of Kamini Rao Yuva FOXI Oration of West Zone 2017. Recipient of FOXI Young Turk Award. Mumbai 2019, Managing Committee member of AOGS, and presently owner of Sevak Maternity and Surgical Hospital, Ahmedabad. Can we have next series slide, please? Dr. Shashwat Jani, he is consultant assistant professor at NHL Municipal Medical College, SVP Hospital, clinical secretary of AOGS for this particular tenure, chief coordinator of West Zone for Perinatology Committee, FOXI, master trainer, FOXI John Hopkins, and the Safe Motherhood Initiative, published 18 articles in index journals, invited faculty in many national and international conferences, and special interest of infertility, endoscopy, and high pregnancy. So I'm handing over the session to today's coordinators to introduce the subject experts and for case presentation proceeding. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. Myself is Dr. Akshay. I would like to invite our moderator, Dr. Dipesh Bhai sir. All of us know Dr. Dipesh Bhai Dhodakia sir. Whenever we type Dr. Dipesh, the auto correction will come that respected Dr. Dipesh Dhodakia sir. The respected word will come of its own. So I welcome Dr. Dipesh Bhai sir to moderate this session. We have 3 PG senior teachers as expert for this topic. First of all, Dr. Aarti Ben madam. May I have the slide, please? Yes. She is senior professor and head of the unit at Sarda Ben Hospital, NHL Municipal Medical College. Authored more than 20 publications in various national and international journals. UG and PG examiner at MCISS and MCSS in various medical college. I would like to add one statement in her slide is motherly figure to me and so many like me.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next senior colleague is Dr. Nitin Raithatta, my one of ex-dissection partner. If you want to define a definition of thorough gentleman, we can say that Dr. Nitin Raithatta. Dr. is professor at Karamsad Medical College, is trainer for emergency obstetrics, is principal assessor at NABH and QCI, is one more additional feather extracurricular is he is a career mentor guiding for work with happiness. I would like to invite our next teacher is Dr. Ami Ben Mehta. The name itself is enough. Ami application જેની આંખમાં અમ્મા જમી છે. Very competent obstetrician. When she performs cesarean section, once he closes the uterus, we have to confirm that uterus has been yet opened or not. So she closes the uterus in that way. Dr. Amiben, we welcome you. I would like to welcome our pleasure, Amiben. I would like to welcome our PG students, Dr. Rahul from LG Hospital, Dr. Hardik Bhai from LG Hospital, Dr. Mahalakshmi from LG Hospital, and Dr. Reena Ben from LG Hospital for the first topic on obstetric case regarding hypertensive disorders of pregnancy. Can I ask our experts to start the session, please?
Hello. Good evening
Even
to all of you. Good evening to all of you. And at the outset, thank you very much for giving this opportunity. And now I also congratulate the young budding gynecologist, and I congratulate them for the participation also. So welcome to you all. And Dr. Rami and Dr. Naveen are there?
Yes,
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 madam.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Shall we start now the presentation?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
of the-
ma'am.
Sure.
Yes, at the outset, thank you and congratulations to AOGS team. So ongoing efforts every year, and PG students is really love this program over a part. Few years, I think 2 decades back, I was also presenting similar case as like all of you, like Hardik, Rahul, and Reena, and Aarti madam was taking our case, and we were
so
learning
nice.
and answering the questions of madam. So now with madam, we are again learning something new with the madam. So you all learn something. So we can go ahead with the presentation.
Okay. Thank you,
From
sir.
my side, again, congratulations to the team organizers and all the best to all the PG students who are presenting today and will be presenting in ongoing series.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Mahalakshmi from AMC Medical College, LG Hospital, third year OBGYN resident.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Dr. Hardik Baria, third year resident, LG Hospital, Ahmedabad.
Good evening, everyone. Myself is Dr. Reena Desai, third year resident, LG Hospital from Ahmedabad.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Dr. Rahul Sinha, third year resident, LG Hospital, Ahmedabad.
We are going to present the case of hypertensive disorders of pregnancy.
Good evening, sir and ma'am, and my fellow colleagues. Today's case is hypertensive disorder of pregnancy. I am presenting a case of 32-year-old Hindu patient, primary gravida female, residing at Maninagar, coming from a low socio-economical class, housewife by profession, admitted in labor ward with 34-week and 4 days of gestation with chief complaint of pedal for a 2-week, headache for a 1 day, and epigastric for a 3 hours. She had a 2 antenatal visit and she had taken 2 doses of tetanus toxoid vaccine. Her menstrual issue, her last menstrual period was 27 November 2020. According to Negle's formula, her calculated ED is 3 September 2021. She has a normal past menstrual issue. She has normal, regular, moderate, and painless menses. Obstetric history is primary gravida female with active marriage life of 2 years. She has no significant past history, no significant of family history, no family history of diabetes, hypertension, tuberculosis, epilepsy, or any genetic disorder. She has a in personal history, she has a vegetarian diet, adequate appetite and sleep, and bowel bladder habits unaltered. On general examination, patient was conscious, oriented to time, place, and person. I have examined patient by taking a verbal consent. Her build is obese, height is 160 centimeter, weight is 95 kilometer, and her BMI is 37 kilometer per meter square. No pallor, no icterus, bilateral pedal edema present. On examination, temperature is normal, pulse is 98, BP 185, 110 millimeter of mercury. Her respiratory rate is 18 cycles per minute. On a urinary examination, urine albumin is +3 on a dipstick method.
In systemic examination, her respiratory system was clear, bilateral air entry was present. In CVS, her S1, S2 was oriented and she followed all the verbal commands. PIT, no significant abnormality. Breast was normal. In abdominal examination, The abdomen was longitudinal distances with no scars or sinuses. Palpation, symphysis fundal height was 33 centimeter. Fundal grip revealed buttock. Left lateral grip, there was a spine, and in right lateral grip, there was limbs. And the fetus was in non-engaged head and cephalic presentation. In auscultation, the heart rate was 140 beats per minute regular, and it was auscultated on the left spino-umbilical line. In per speculum examination, the cervix was normal. In the per vaginal examination, the cervix was firm and os closed, and it was posterior. In ultrasonography, it revealed single live intrauterine gestation of 34 weeks, cephalic presentation. The placenta was posterior with AFI 3 to 4 centimeter with a normal Doppler study. All investigations was normal. Diagnosis, primigravida having single live intrauterine gestation of 34 weeks plus 4 days in maturity in cephalic presentation, non-engaged head with a normal fetal heart rate, severe preeclampsia and oligohydramnios. We admitted this patient and we sent all the routine investigation. We started her on antihypertensives since her BP was 180 by 110. We started her on injectable labetalol, 20 mg IV immediately followed by infusion. Steroids were given as she was only 34 weeks plus 4 days, and prophylactical MGSO4 was given because she had bilateral periodic edema and headache complaint. Emergency cesarean section was performed in view of severe preeclampsia with unfavorable modified Bishop score. And the neonate was a male child, 2 kg, and he cried immediately after birth. The patient was then shifted to obstetric ICU for further observation. And in immediate post-operative, BP was 160 by 100, and infusion labetalol was continued. And after 24 hours, her BP was reduced to 142 by 90 mmHg. And she was gradually tapered off, and she was started her on tablet labetalol. Thank you.
Okay, fine. How will you, the first question to you people is, how will you classify hypertension in pregnancy?
I mean, pregnancy hypertension is classified into gestational hypertension.
Okay.
Hello.
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 Gestational hypertension, ma'am.
What else? How will you classify the hypertension? One is gestational hypertension. What is next?
Chronic hypertension.
Is there some standard classification in the books? Is there any standard classification in the books? That is what madam is asking.
Yes, sir. The gestational hypertension, chronic hypertension with superimposed preeclamptic features,
Okay.
preeclampsia with or without severe features, eclampsia, sir.
Okay, so what do you mean by gestational hypertension? Emphasize every category of hypertension in pregnancy. One is gestational hypertension. So you emphasize, what do you mean by gestational hypertension?
Blood pressure more than systolic blood pressure more than 140 or diastolic more than 90 millimeter of mercury after 20 of gestation without evidence of proteinuria in a previously normotensive woman. It's called a gestational hypertension.
And what do you mean by preeclampsia?
A preeclampsia is a multi-organ systemic disorder defined as blood pressure more than 140 or systolic BP more than 140 or diastolic BP more than 90 millimeter of mercury with evidence of proteinuria with or without evidence of end organ damage.
So it is a single reading of this hypertension is sufficient to label?
No, ma'am.
Then
whenever
you answer in definition, whenever you give definition, it should be very, very perfect. Okay? And keywords should be included without fail.
No, BP should take on 6 hour interval on a 2 hour.
2 readings.
Suppose patient comes immediately record or in resting condition.
Sir, the first reading in the OPT it should be sitting condition, and after the first reading we should repeat the reading after 6 hours.
So in the resting, so
4 hours.
definition what madam wants to convey is keywords 6 hours apart, 2 readings in resting condition. So just patient is coming in, moving, and immediately you take the BP. Is not, let the patient sit, wait for 5-10 minutes, and then take the blood pressure. Listen, okay. Suppose patient has an antenatal card, and today's blood pressure is 136/84. Her pedal edema is present. Urine albumin is +3. Can it be preeclampsia?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It could be,
It could be a
delta
preeclampsia.
hypertension.
So will be a
But
preeclampsia.
according to definition, is 140/90.
Yes, sir. But still, we'll have to admit the patient and follow up with her BP readings.
So what is the definition? Again, hypertension, basic definition. So rise in from the baseline, rise in systolic. That's why I say she has antenatal record available.
Okay, sir.
How much rise in systolic or diastolic blood pressure from the baseline reading?
So it is not an absolute terminology. It is a relative terminology in reference to her previous record, and that's why Dr. Nitin sir is categorically telling that in her antenatal card there is a blood pressure 134 or something. So there is a rise in systolic or diastolic blood pressure should also be included when you.
Sir, systolic blood pressure more than 30 mm of Hg, and diastolic or a diastolic blood pressure more than 30 mm of Hg.
15.
Yes, sir.
Okay. There is no proteinuria, but there are associated symptoms. Will you classify preeclampsia or not? Is proteinuria must suggestive of preeclampsia?
No, ma'am. According to the recent guidelines, proteinuria with or without proteinuria, along with end organ damage, is more important than proteinuria.
Yes.
So when we concentrate on proteinuria, which is the more specific criteria for urine?
The more specific criteria is the 24-hour urinary protein, but as it is not feasible, we do protein creatinine ratio, and if it is more than 0.3, we classify her as proteinuria.
Okay, fine. Go ahead. Ami, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Not audible.
Okay, I'm repeating my question. You have done an emergency cesarean section after giving 1 dose of dexamethasone 12 milligrams, right? A5 was 3 to 4 centimeter with normal Doppler. So couldn't you wait till the next dose of dexamethasone? Since the fetal Doppler was normal, could the NST help in deciding whether to prolong the gestation for at least 24 hours or so?
Yes, ma'am, but she was having impending features of eclampsia, such as blurring of vision and severe headache, even after the administration of injectable Lobet and Megself, ma'am.
What was the prophylactic dose of Megself you used?
Sir, we used 5 grams IM, sir, as prophylactic dose.
No, for impending eclampsia, that is not the dose. We don't use only IM.
What is the prophylactic Megself therapy? IM? And what is the concentration of Megself you are giving?
Sorry, ma'am, it wasn't audible.
So, difference between therapeutic versus prophylactic criteria. In which patient you will say this is a prophylactic dose, in which patient you will say this is a therapeutic dose.
Sir, in case of a impending eclampsia or a signs of eclampsia present, we can give a prophylactically max out dose. Or in case of eclampsia,
Immediately after
Even once
eclampsia, we
imminent.
give
So once the imminent signs are present, we should consider them as a eclampsia, and then we have to give full therapeutic dose. Prophylaxis dose is a high pressure, and all other things are there. In that case, we are giving just prophylactic, even without impending sign of eclampsia. That is not prophylaxis.
okay, sir.
Will you monitor your max self therapy in of eclampsia?
Yes, ma'am. We monitor the deep tendon reflex, which is particularly a knee jerk, and we monitor her respiratory rate, pulse, BP, temperature, CO2, and yes, ma'am, and urine output, ma'am.
What drug should we use during cesarean section to prevent postpartum hemorrhage?
sorry, ma'am.
Which molecule do you use to prevent during cesarean section? We routinely give uterine contractile agents during CS. Can you hear me?
No, ma'am.
Ma'am, can
There
you
is some problem with the connection. Hello.
Right now we can
Now
hear
audible. Now audible.
Now
Okay.
audible.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am,
Which molecule will be the drug of choice for prophylaxis or treatment of PPH during cesarean section?
ma'am,
yes.
oxytocin, ma'am. 20 international.
In which dose?
10 international unit
In each.
intramuscular, ma'am.
During
And for
cesarean,
During cesarean, we put 20 international units in 1 pint of RL, sir.
IV slowly.
IV.
usually in severe hypertension, during pregnancy they go restriction, because after delivery that would be again remove dilution. Okay.
Ami, you are not audible.
Madam, I don't know. I have
now
moved
it's
to some
okay.
other area. Okay,
Nahin,
okay, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So routinely they try to restrict fluid in cases of severe hypertension and immediately after delivery of the fetus, right? So 10 units or 20 units in 1 pint, I suppose that is 500 ml of whatever fluid you are speaking of. Will it be sufficient, or one should start concentrated drip? Do you know concentrated
So-
drip of oxytocin?
So
Yeah, can
would
you
you,
mention the dose?
in other words, would you start in 100 ml pint, 500 ml pint, 1 liter pint, or a 50 ml syringe? Same pitocin 20 unit you have to start. What will be your
Yes, sir. 100
choice?
ml. Sir, 20 international unit oxytocin in 100 ml pint, sir.
Then how will you titrate? So either infusion pump or infusion syringe pump you may have to use to give concentrated. That's what my madam is asking.
Yes, and if there is PPH, then what will you do? Atonic PPH.
Ma'am, during
This
During
particular
cesarean
patient, yes. During CS,
I mean,
you have started
postpartum period or during
oxytocin.
cesarean section, ma'am.
During cesarean
Intraoperative.
section, intraoperative, yes.
Ma'am, first of all, ma'am, uterine massage should be given. Ma'am,
Okay.
after administration of injectable 20 international oxytocin, if still tone of uterus is not there, I will give injectable carbose 250 intramuscularly.
Intramuscularly or any other route?
We prefer
We
intramuscularly.
prefer
sir.
intramuscular, sir.
Which are the other routes by which you can also give?
Ma'am, intramyometrial can be given.
Myometrial or
Okay.
So why you prefer intramuscular over intramyometrial?
In intramyometrial, there are not enough studies done, and it can cause localized vasoconstriction. So it can cause even trauma to the uterus, by which it can bleed afterwards. So we prefer muscular route, sir.
We start with some of the basics in what history you have presented. Patient is 32 years of age. So is there any importance in this case? Age
Yes,
and preeclampsia?
Yes, sir. Sir, age greater than age below 20 or age greater than 32 to 35 will have a higher chance of develop hypertension order of pregnancy, because they are exposing first time to a chorionic villi. So age is important.
But
factor, sir,
age
in this
is
case.
fine, but what about elderly age?
More than 35, sir.
So why in elderly patient preeclampsia is common?
So as the age increases, chances of
Yes.
medical disorder except the vasculopathy atherosclerotic component is going to increase as a part.
Yes,
So age-related component is also there along with placental burden.
Okay.
Second part is you activate 2 years. So is
Yes,
there any relation here?
Yes, sir. Inter-pregnancy interval more than 7 to 10 years, sir, have a higher chance of developing hypertensive disorder pregnancy.
She is primary. She is primary, your patient.
Yes, primary active marriage life is 2 years. So
And even
suppose instead of 2 years, it is 10 years.
2 years, sir.
2 years, sir.
Suppose it is 10 years, then
Higher chances of pregnancy.
why?
Preeclampsia, sir.
What is the rationale?
Sir? Yes, sir.
What is the
What is
rationale?
the rationale?
Justification.
10 years, after
She
10 years,
might
what
have-
will be her age?
It is increasing.
For 2
Age is
years,
increased.
Yes.
Age is increased, and mostly infertility treatments he might have taken. And the studies are saying that with the ART treatment, chances of preeclampsia is higher, because again, same genetic problem with this antigen.
Yes.
Yes.
In your slide, you said edema, bilateral edema fit plus. So,
Yes,
what was the what is the differential diagnosis for edema in this patient? Whether it's a pitting or non-pitting?
Sir, it was a pitting type of edemas, and differential diagnosis, she might have been severely anemic, or in HELP syndrome, sir, or in cardiac failure, sir, or can if she might have had unilateral edema, we could also suspect lymphadenopathy, sir.
Is anything more common or simple? One is anemia, then something more common you are missing out?
Hypoproteinemia. Hypoproteinemia.
Yes, hypoproteinemia.
Yes, hypoproteinemia.
Yeah.
In say respiratory system, findings were normal, but which are the findings you are more worried about in respiratory system?
Sir, if she had bilateral Krebs, or her SpO2 was decreasing, then we would suggest pulmonary edema.
So there are 2 types of pulmonary edema. One is cardiorrhea and one is because of preeclampsia. So which would you like to love to treat, and which would you like to avoid?
Pulmonary edema due to preeclampsia is likely to avoid, sir.
Why?
95 to 100% chance of mortality is there, sir.
Why?
Why?
Sir, because it is if she is going into pulmonary edema after eclampsia, that means her head organ damages has already begun, and all her systemic organs have already been affected at that time. And if it was due to cardiac cause, then we can give her and she might respond better.
Why this pulmonary edema preeclampsia does not remain?
Damage is there in case of preeclampsia, sir. In case of cardiac causes, sir, we can.
What damage is there?
Sir,
what is damaged?
Irreversible damage.
Irreversible is by what?
End organ, sir.
Of which structure? Which structure?
In preeclampsia.
In
Renal, sir.
in renal,
Renal
sir.
system. Okay.
Renal system is there, but the main thing is it's a epithelial destruction, na? Brain epithelium, endovascular leakage
Yes.
is there.
Yes.
So protein leak is going to be there from the vessels. So it is not only fluid is extravasating, it's also some protein is also extravasating, and that is why it is an irreversible. Even with diuretics, you may not be able to shift the part. Already hemo concentration is there in preeclampsia.
Yes.
There's already hemo concentration. So by giving diuretic, you may not going to help much. Okay. Now, can we predict preeclampsia in any patient?
Yes,
Prediction?
sir.
Yes, sir.
We in history wise itself, we can rule out first of all the risk factors of preeclampsia, sir, such as primary patient, and if she has any.
Okay, so history already we have discussed some of the aspects. Then examination and the
What do you know? What is one stage screening or two stages screening for prediction of preeclampsia?
very important.
Can you enumerate the high risk factor for preeclampsia? That is identification of the high risk, one stage. What is those?
Ma'am, previous in a risk factor, ma'am, there is a obesity, previous history of hypertensive disorder of pregnancy.
Yes, you are
Multiple
right.
ge-
Go on.
Multiple gestation in first trimester, molar pregnancy, diabetes mellitus, vasculopathy.
Good.
Okay.
Other.
Suppose she has got preeclampsia in last pregnancy. What are the chances of recurrence of that preeclampsia in
20%
index?
chances of recurrence.
20%.
20% chances of recurrence.
Okay.
Other predictive markers for development of hypertensive disorders. One is high risk factors, as you have mentioned. Then other.
Any blood test, any other test, physical test, clinical test, imaging
Yes, ma'am.
test.
According to
Imaging test.
we can rule out evidence of anemia or thrombocytopenia or evidence of hemolysis via peripheral smear.
And
No.
predictors of
Predictors.
Diagnosis nahi.
And madam and sir are asking about the radiological or imaging science.
Okay, ma'am.
Predictor.
Ma'am, according to sonography, persistence of diastolic node beyond 24 weeks of gestation is a predictor of developing hypertensive disorder pregnancy in same pregnancy.
Or increased PI.
Will you wait in high risk patient for 24 weeks to predict, or
Any other
you will utilize
earlier?
first? Any other earlier?
Are there any
There are
biochemical
many
markers?
investigations such as placental lactogen rollover, and in the OPD itself we can predict preeclampsia by doing a rollover test or angiotensin 2 sensitivity test.
Do we have any medicine? Do we have any medicine if we
Yes,
predict this female can develop hypertensive disorder of pregnancy?
Aspirin.
Aspirin.
Yes.
Then what is the ideal time to start aspirin?
Ma'am,
No.
12 to 16 weeks, preferably
Right,
before
12 to
16 weeks of
16.
Very good.
Yes.
And
So
dose?
now tell us.
Sir, 75 to 150 milligram OD.
So now tell us which are the predictive tests you have to predict that this female can develop hypertensive disorder in pregnancy before this time period. Then and then only you will be able to help her.
So if we start earlier we start, better is the result. Okay. So madam is asking which are the predictors which may be
One is
either
history.
hematological or imaging science. Okay. So one is history, second.
Ma'am, there is a rollover test. mean arterial pressure or
You were telling uterine artery.
uterine artery
Uterine artery.
pulsatile index may more than
Yes.
2.3 is indicator of height of the
Your audio is not. You're not audible.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
yes. Go ahead.
Ma'am, there is increase soluble FMS like tyrosine kinase 1 or a soluble endoglobulin, and there is a decreased marker of placental growth factor and vascular endothelial growth factor, and there is a increase of
Placenta associated.
placenta associated plasma protein type A or inhibin A. They are in decreasing, and increasing are the HCG, alpha fetoprotein, estriol, and then CRP.
Altered liver function test, renal function test.
Beta,
So,
those
according
are
to organ
complications.
They are not the
organ
predictor.
specific. They are the complications. Predictors
Okay,
already said what you said in beginning. Later on, whatever you are saying are complications. Initially, whatever 3-4 you started was the part. Now, as you have already started saying investigation, list of minimum versus if cost and logistic is not an issue, then maximum. So first minimum. Suppose you are in PHC or some CHC centers, right? Or district hospital, the tier 2 city or tier 3 city, where some of the investigation may be possible, maybe not be possible. So minimum investigation, what will you do in case of your case? Already you have done something.
Okay, sir. Sir, first of all, I will send a complete blood profile with peripheral smear, sir.
Okay.
Then, sir, renal functions and liver functions should be carried out.
And in liver
Be
function
specific,
test,
be
we
specific.
Be
What
specific,
is the
because
what is the rationale of peripheral smear in PIH?
Them to rule out any hemolysis in case of
okay,
health syndrome, ma'am.
okay.
we will
Renal function
send,
and liver function specific.
Ma'am,
LDH.
Entire function or one investigation?
AST.
AST, SGPT, SGPT.
Okay.
And ma'am, in renal function test, serum creatinine, serum uric acid, and urea.
What is the importance of uric acid?
Uric.
Sir, in
Is it a
pregnancy, there is uric acid is generated by fetus and both. So there is a increasing uric acid already, but in pregnancy there is increase glomerular capillary leaking increasing. So there is albumin is
no, but
going in reducing. So
clinical
there is no
application. There is a theory very
more
good.
than
Good.
5.
If your
Suppose same
patient is
patient.
admitted in ward and you are monitoring her, okay, you are trying to control her hypertension, and you have serial uric acid readings. Suppose your uric acid readings are on the higher side. Do they carry any importance? Gradually they are rising, say from 7 to 8 to 9 to 10.
So what does it signify?
Severe features.
Audios are not clear.
Yes, exactly. Not able to listen.
Hello, sir.
Okay, so I think you got the question. You got the question and gist what we are asking.
Yes.
So next, because we are not able to audio. And again, already time is ticking, so we are moving ahead. There's a next question. So one is renal function, liver function. You said any specific
Yes.
investigation you would do in your case important when you are in periphery.
Ultrasound he'll have to do.
Ultrasound, okay.
Sir,
Again,
we have
one
done
don't say
calcium,
MBBS
hypocalcium.
as a PG. As a PG, what is important mark point in ultrasound?
Sir, Doppler changes we'll have to be looking for, and
Number one,
FI
two,
values,
second.
sir.
Doppler is normal, but other one important point.
Sir, amniotic
Fluid
fluid.
index.
Sir.
Yes, amniotic fluid. Okay. Third,
Sir,
Maturity.
maturity.
interval growth. If past reports are available, otherwise
Okay.
maturity is okay. Fine. Now, what is the choice of? In your case, you had started labetalol. So, what is the
Yes.
target?
Sir, the target BP should be kept between 135 to 85 millimeter of mercury, sir.
So, in what time period you want to reach the target?
Oh, 30.
Sir, gradually over 1 to 2 hours, sir, because her reading was very high. So if we drastically reduce the BP immediately, then she might go for placental insufficiency, and
Very
IAP
good.
might happen.
And so, placental insufficiency as well as renal insufficiency both can occur. So,
Yes,
what
sir.
should be the rate of reduction? Rate of reduction.
So 10 mm systolic should
So,
can be
10% we
reduced.
say 10%.
10%.
10%. Yes, sir.
Aarti madam used to teach us these things specifically.
Yeah.
This 100 questions. I am just what are the question I am seeing is of the madam.
So the circle is completing. So suppose you didn't get the patient's blood pressure control with labetalol, what will you do?
Yes,
Sir,
40
we'll
milligram.
first start with 20 milligram of labetalol IV over 20 minutes, and the repeat reading, if it is not getting control, I will shift her to 40 mg of labetalol, and even if it's not controlled, then we'll give 80 mg of labetalol infusion. And even after, if it is not controlled, then we will add a second antihypertensive such as hydralazine, and we will and nifedipine can also be used combinedly. And even if after all these antihypertensive drugs the BP is not controlled, then we might terminate the pregnancy.
Can I say something, madam?
Yes, yes.
Last,
Akshay.
sir, last minute. Nitin sir, last 1 minute, and if you want to have few questions, so 45 minutes is almost up.
Okay.
What complications do you? Yes.
I'm asking you to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What
Carry on.
complications do you anticipate during the cesarean section of such patient, just like yours, such high blood pressure?
Sir, ma'am, she might have extensive bleeding, even from small arteries or veins. From the incision site also, she might be bleeding profusely, and after delivering the fetus, then she might go for PPH, atonicity, and that will be the complication.
So prior starting cesarean section, will you do specific investigation to rule out DIC, whether she can go for it? Practical question.
Ma'am, she didn't have any features such as hematuria pertaining to DIC. So in this patient,
won't you go
and
for
PTI
platelet
was-
count or PT, INT? Yes.
It's normal.
Okay.
So
there was no
And what
evidence of
complications do you anticipate in the neonate? 34 weeks
Ma'am,
of gestation.
as it as
first of all, ma'am, prematurity. According to week of gestation, prematurity, ma'am, respiratory distress syndrome because of counter effect of antihypertensive we give.
Okay.
and the baby might be in acidosis, so it might have had complication of acidosis, ma'am. It's
Why
because of
acidosis?
hypoxia intrauterine.
Hypoxia.
Hypoxia intrauterine because of placental insufficiency. The baby will go into hypoxia, which will result in acidosis, ma'am. Which later on, after delivery, the baby will have complications.
But baby going for acidosis is going to reflect some abnormality in Doppler, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Acidosis is one of the quite late event. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you have done cesarean section of your patient. She is fine. And what advice will you give at the time of discharge?
Ma'am, we will call her to 2 times a week for the first week, and we'll follow up her every week, and we will titre her antihypertensive according to her BP. And
what else?
Ma'am, what else, ma'am? To prevent hypertensive disorder in next pregnancy, we'll advise her
to start on aspirin, ma'am.
ma'am, to explain postnatal exercise, ma'am. I mean, continuation of interpregnancy interval between more than 2 years. Then, ma'am, in a subsequent next pregnancy, ma'am, she will starting of aspirin, ma'am, from 12 week.
Nitin, anything?
So some of the basics, some of the routine what we are discussing now. Any recent updates for pre-eclampsia?
Sir, there is some new studies
Yes.
in
Fetal DNA.
free fetal DNA, sir. So that could be
Okay.
marker for prediction of preeclampsia. And there
For
has been
prediction,
excessive
yes.
studies on prevention as such as giving by zinc, magnesium, calcium supplementation. Even right now we are giving, but
It's a age old. Calcium 2 gram per day, and with magnesium, role of magnesium is also there as a part. Any Indian parts, there are so many studies are happening on the pre-eclampsia, particularly in magnesium sulfate regime. Do you know anything about that?
the supplementation of
For
magnesium.
treatment of eclampsia or therapeutic treatment, there are different magnesium sulfate regimes are there. So do you know any?
Sir, yes, sir.
Sir, they are routinely following IV intravenous administration of magnesium sulfate, such as Zuspan regimen or CBI regimen. But we in India, we prefer using Pritchard's regimen.
Anything? These are age old. When we were studying, Zuspan and Pritchard were there in 96, 97.
Yes, sir.
Currently, there are some new studies happening in India. Indian recent advances. What I'm asking about the low dose. Have you heard of
Lytic cocktail?
low dose regime? Dhaka regime.
Dhaka regimen, Lytic cocktail regimen, Sokoto
Lytic cocktail is different thing.
Lytic cocktail time.
Okay, sir. Dhaka regimen.
Am I right?
તમે છોકરાઓને કહો રિસર્ચ શું છે સર?
Hello.
હા નિખિલ સર કહો છોકરાઓને તમે શું રિસર્ચ કહો છો છોકરાઓને આ સ્વરૂપે
Low dose restriction for Zuspan using 1 gram per patient be 5 gram per hour. Then what we in the South Bellary is doing so many studies in the pre-eclampsia, and there are things are coming up with the low dose because our frameworks of patients are low BMI patients. So total dose, if we say 24 hours, total dose into Zuspan is very high. So if we can give almost 50 to 60% dosage, even we can achieve the same safety margin, same therapeutic effect, but low complications of mechanism.
Okay, I think we should conclude now.
Yes, ma'am.
Akshay, Ami.
Thank you, madam. Yes, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam.
Akshay.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nitin.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so much.
Akshay, Ami,
Thank you,
Nitin,
expert.
and thank you all the students.
All
મેડમ પીજી સ્ટુડન્ટ્સ ને તમારા બ્લેસિંગ્સ આપી દો એટલે બધા સારા ગાયનેક આપણા ગુજરાતમાં સર્વિસ કરવા માટે મેનકાઇન્ડ ને તૈયાર.
Yes. Blessings are always from all of us to every students.
you,
and
ma'am.
be committed to your studies as well as your noble work in the hospital. Okay. Ami and Nitin, do you want to add something?
No, all of them are doing good. What we are trying to ask the same thing what you are learning, but it's a hot seat. So your friends may be sitting behind saying this can be a good answer. So already you have studied, you had answered well. But the only thing is application based what you do in a day-to-day practice. That is we have to always keep in mind. So what Akshay is always used to say many times when we meet as a part. This anything does not know it's fine, but they should know basics application in the
Yes,
day-to-day practice.
exactly.
Otherwise, I find they don't remember. Okay.
Practical implication of theory. That is what we want in your vivas. So wish you all the best, everyone,
All
and
the
thank you
best.
so much, Akshay.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Nitin
you.
bhai.
Bye.
Thank you, Ami.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye
now
bye.
we go
Bye.
ahead with the
Bye.
bye. Thank you. Now we go ahead with our second case presentation, for which I would like to invite my colleague, Dr. Kirtan Bhai and Dr. Sashwat Jani, to further proceedings. Dr. Kirtan and Dr. Sashwat Jani.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, all the senior experts, Dr. Arti Madam, Dr. Ami Madam, Dr. Nitin, sir, for the wonderful conclusion of the first case of PIH. Now we move ahead with our gynec case. And for that, I would like to invite our another team of experts and examiners, Dr. Ashish Shah, sir. Dr. Ashish Shah, sir, is a professor and head of GMERS Medical College, Gotri in Vadodara. He is MICOG and FICOG. He is a fellow in high-risk obstetrics at Liverpool Hospital, Sydney. He was past president of Baroda Obs and Gynae Society, and he has been the UG, PG as well as DNB examiner and MCI inspector for assessment of various medical colleges. He has so many international achievements to his credit. Dr. P.R. Dikshit Fellowship for International Research, Sydney, Australia. Presentation at Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Obs and Gynae and AOFOG Summit at Auckland, New Zealand in March 2009. He has been recipient of SS Ratnam Young Gynecologist Award for Asia Oceania region by Asia Oceania Federation of Obs and Gynae at Japan. He has his research fellowship in gynecological oncology at Cook County Hospital, Chicago, USA. He has more than 100 guest lectures to his credit. He is also the recipient of Dr. Kamini Rao Oration at Mumbai in 2013. He has received Foxy ICOG MCure Pharma Travel Award in January 2011. Also the recipient of Foxy Ethicon Traveling Fellowship Award, ICOG Max Credit Point Award in 2005. And also the recipient of R.D. Pandit Research Prize for Best Thesis by Foxy in 2004. He has authored so many chapters in different textbooks and also a big guest faculty for many web CMEs. Especially, I would like to mention regarding his special contribution apart from academics, he has written, directed and performed teach plays on social issues like female feticide, blood donation, child labor and child education, save water and female equality. And he has also delivered educational talks on adolescence, puberty, sexual and reproductive health at different radio stations, schools as well as colleges. So it's privilege to have you, Dr. Ashish Shah, sir. We welcome you. Our next CV, please. We also have our very own Dr. Rohit Jain, sir. He is an MD in FICS and currently working as an associate professor and unit head in Department of Obs and Gynae at GMERS Medical College, Gandhinagar. He has been an invited faculty in many conferences and workshops and he has many research papers to his credit. He is an academician and advanced laparoscopic surgeon and he has special interest in ART. He is also awarded with Gujarat Gynec Excellence Award in West Zone Yuva Foxy in 2000. So we welcome you, sir. Rohit, sir.
Thank you.
Our next CV, please. Our next expert is Dr. Divyesh Bhai Panchal. He is a Master of Surgery in Obs and Gynae and also an endoscopic surgeon and oncogynecologist. Currently is working as an associate professor at Gujarat Cancer Society Medical Research Hospital. He is having a certified training and fellowship in oncogynecology in Tata Memorial Hospital, Mumbai. He is a penile surgeon in laparoscopic tubal ligation by Gujarat government and he has also done his diploma in endoscopy from prestigious CICE at France. He has been the Vice President of Ahmedabad Medical Association in the year 2017 and 18. He is the Office Bearer of Ahmedabad Medical Association for the year 2015 to 17. He was the Managing Committee member of Ahmedabad Medical Association for 2 consecutive years, 2013 to 14 and 14 to 15. And he has been the Gujarat Medical Council Observer in AICOG 2017 held at Ahmedabad. And he has also, to his credit, many academic programs. So we welcome you, Dr. Divyesh Kumar Panchal. The gynec case would be abnormal uterine bleeding, one of the most important topics in postgraduate examination. And we have a team of students from SVP Hospital, Dr. Ayushi Suthar, Dr. Anushka Mehta, Dr. Forum Acharya, and Dr. Hetal Dodia. So we welcome you all PG students. So we would invite now you to present the case, and we have our panel of experts to guide you and to have their inputs.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, faculties. I'm Dr. Ayushi Suthar, resident from SVP Hospital. I'm Dr. Anushka Mehta, resident from SVP Hospital, Obstetrics and Gynecology.
I'm Dr. Forum Acharya, resident from the SVP Hospital.
I'm Dr. Hetal Dodia from SVP Hospital.
Thank you, sir. So, may I start?
Yes, please go ahead.
A 48-year-old Mrs. ABC, housewife profession, belonging to lower middle socioeconomic class family, second para patient presenting to our OPD with a chief complaint of heavy and prolonged menstrual bleeding since 6 months on 24 July 2021. History of presenting illness. Patient had regular cyclical menstrual history till 6 months ago, after which the patient started experiencing heavy menstrual bleeding, which was insidious in onset and lasted for 8 to 10 days with a cycle interval of 45 to 50 days. She used to change 7 to 8 fully soaked pads for the first 4 to 5 days, associated with passage of clots 1 to 2 inches and not associated with abdominal pain. She also complains of waking up at night to change her pad. She has no associated abdominal pain, no associated discharge per vaginum, no history of any other medications or contraceptive usage in present or recent past, no history of intermenstrual bleeding or postcoital bleeding, no history of mass per abdomen per vaginum. She does not give history of burning micturition, increased frequency or retention of urine, no history of difficulty in passage of stool, no history of weight loss or loss of appetite. There is no history of any episode of bleeding from other sites or associated liver, kidney, or endocrine disorders. Her menstrual history. Her last menstrual period was 15th July 2021. Her past menstrual history. Before 6 months, she had a menstrual cycle of 30 to 32 days with menses lasting for 4 to 5 days, which was regular, normal, with moderate flow, painless, using 2 to 3 pads per day. Her present cycle since the past 6 months is of 45 to 50 days with menses lasting for 8 to 10 days, regular, heavy flow, painless, using 7 to 8 fully soaked pads per day. She is a P2L2 patient who has had 26 years of active married life of a non-consanguineous marriage. She is a second para patient with 2 living children. First, a male child 25 years of age by institutional full-term vaginal delivery. Second, female child 22 years of age born by institutional full-term vaginal delivery. Patient had undergone laparoscopic tubal ligation 20 years ago. She has no significant past history of diabetes, thyroid disorders, hypertension, epilepsy, tuberculosis, no abdominal surgeries or blood transfusions in past. She has no significant family history. In personal history, she has a mixed diet, normal unaltered appetite. Sleep is adequate except for when it is altered during menses to change her pad at night. Regular unaltered bowel and bladder movement, and no history of tobacco chewing, sniffing, smoking, or alcohol.
We have examined the patient in proper light and exposure, changing the position as and when required after taking her consent. Patient was fairly built, well nourished, and well oriented to time, place, and person. Patient weighed 60 kgs with a height of 158 centimeters and BMI of 24. There was pallor, no uterus cyanosis clubbing, edema or lymphadenopathy. Temperature was normal by palpatory method. Pulse was 98 over right radial artery with normal force, tension, volume, and no radiofemoral delay. Blood pressure was 122 by 80 millimeters of mercury over the left brachial artery at the level of heart in semi-recumbent position. On examination, thyroid, breasts, and spines were normal. Systemic examination was normal. Per abdominal, shape, size, and contour were normal. Umbilicus was central and inverted. Corresponding quadrants moved equally with respiration. Scar of tubal ligation was seen, it was healthy. No other scars, sinuses, dilated veins, or visible pulsations were seen. No suprapubic bulge. There was no tenderness or no mass on palpation per abdominal. On pelvic examination, per speculum, the cervix was normal, healthy. No abnormality was seen. No mass, discharge, bleeding, or erosion. Pap smear was taken during the examination. On vaginal examination, uterus was normal sized, anteverted, free and mobile. Cervix was normal. No fornicial tenderness or mass was seen. So our provisional diagnosis is a 48-year-old female presenting with heavy and prolonged menstrual bleeding since the past 6 months. And depending on the history and clinical examination, our provisional diagnosis is abnormal uterine bleeding, which we would like to further investigate.
So, as per the classification, in which category of AUB you would put this patient into?
Sir, we would like to further investigate, but upon history and clinical examination, it is more likely to be either AUB-O or AUB-M.
With endometrial hyperplasia.
Yes. We would like to
investigate further.
Yes. To come to a
We are suspecting ovulatory dysfunction for this particular case. So, what could be the reason, probable reason for this ovulatory dysfunction?
The patient is of perimenopausal age, so there would be anovulatory cycle. So due to anovulatory cycle, hyperestrogenic endometrium would show this type of presentation.
Which other age group would you expect the same complaint commonly?
perimenarche, adolescent and perimenarchal patients.
Okay.
Or PCO patients.
Okay, young female around her menarche would complain the same. So, if a young female comes with such complaint, with with prolonged heavy menstrual bleeding, would you think of something else? Yeah, this is her first period, and she comes with heavy flow. Would you investigate?
Coagulated dysfunction if the first menarchal bleeding is heavy, it can be puberty menorrhagia, or we could rule out coagulatory dysfunctions.
Okay. What percentage of female with heavy first menarchal bleed would land up with coagulation defect?
15%.
Sorry? What percentage?
15%.
Yeah, it's around 15 to 20% of female you would find coagulation defect. And if an adult female like 24 years comes with such complaint, and you find in history, once you took the history and it came out to be she had a history of PPH or gum bleed or something, what thing you would expect?
Sorry, sir.
Adult female of around 24 years would come with heavy bleeding this time, and she gives a history positive for bleed during a surgery in her postpartum period, or with the gum bleed also. So what pathology you would think of?
It's most probably von Willebrand disease.
No, von Willebrand is commoner in younger male, and in an adult one, what I said it is ITP.
ITP, yes.
That we would suspect if she gives history of bleeds in her previous some procedures.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So how would you investigate this patient?
First, we
like to do a urine pregnancy test and a complete blood count, as the patient clinically is pale. So these two investigations, and along with when we do blood investigation, we'll also like to do a coagulation profile to rule out other endocrine pathology, thyroid.
Practically speaking, Ashish Bhai is here, Akshay Bhai is here. The first investigation, I would directly put her, subject her to for a transvaginal ultrasound.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That will actually, most of the things would come up with that particular ultrasound. See, if let's say, just forget about this case. If if you are suspecting, means how to be very straightforward, how would you differentiate between fibroid and adenomyosis? Clinically, you tell me clinical findings, you tell me ultrasound findings as well.
Adenomyosis usually presents with dysmenorrhea and fibroid with
I would say this is the most common problem that we face when we are we were residents. How to differentiate between adenomyosis and
Yes.
tell me.
So on the chief complaint of adenomyosis is usually dysmenorrhea, and for fibroid it is usually menorrhagia, more than heavy menstrual bleeding, more than dysmenorrhea. On examination,
What kind of dysmenorrhea does adenomyosis will lead to?
Congestive type of dysmenorrhea.
Mean? What does it mean? Congestive means what?
So what does it mean? Secondary dysmenorrhea it is.
No. Congestive means what? How clinical presentation
It begins before the onset of menses. It also presents during the menses, and it persists even after the menses.
It starts before the periods, onset of periods, that is congestive. And what is spasmodic?
Spasmodic, it usually begins before the
After
during the first or
second day of the menses.
first 2 days
it
of
subsides
menses.
with menses.
Yes, the first thing is dysmenorrhea, by which you can differentiate. The second thing?
Then on examination, if there's an adenomyotic uterus, it is globular or equally enlarged. And then in fibroid, there are separate masses or irregular enlargement is seen.
Consistency is soft.
If it is let's say if it is an 18 weeks lump, 18 weeks globular uterus pelvic lump you palpate, then would you suspect adenomyosis?
No, it is less than 12 weeks size.
Yes. Yes. Max it could be 14 weeks. Maximum it can be of 14 weeks, but not more than that usually. Right. Any other finding then?
Consistency is comparatively soft in adenomyosis and form on the fibroid.
So firm consistency would be there in case of
Fibroid.
Okay. Then after that?
In USG, if there is a loss of endomyometrial differentiation, it is seen in adenomyosis. And usually pseudocapsule or peripheral vasculature is seen.
Clear demarcation is seen, then it is more likely to be a fibroid.
Can you just explain what happens in adenomyosis? What happens in adenomyosis? What is the pathology?
The
Endometrium grows in myometrial tissue.
Is it endometrium?
Ectopic
glands.
You are right. When I was in undergraduation, I was told that way only. It is the ectopic endometrium inside the myometrium. But you are postgraduates, so I expect something more. It is a junction actually. It is a endometrial-myometrial junction that pushes inside the myometrial area. And when you do an MRI, such patients of adenomyosis, you will clearly see thickened endometrial-myometrial junction, thickened. So that is the reason. Actually, the junction, it invaginates or it grows and it becomes thicker. And that's why you don't differentiate on ultrasound whether the demarcation between the endometrium and the myometrium. Right? So it is a growth of that junction, endometrial myometrial junction. It thickens actually. Okay. So one is that the loss of junction, the loss of that differentiation between endometrial. Any other finding, ultrasound finding?
Intralesional vascularity is seen in adenomyosis.
Peripheral in fibroid.
Okay.
And myometrial cysts are specific findings of adenomyosis.
Subendometrial
Even if yes, myometrial cyst is very specific of adenomyosis, even if the uterus is like normal in size, sometimes there is no differentiation between means different sizes of anterior wall or posterior wall. But if I see a myometrial cyst, that is very specific of adenomyosis. Yes. Then
subendometrial echogenic lines are seen.
And shadowing.
The
Yes.
irregularity and interrupted junctional zone is there.
Yes, like a curtain blind curtain. You must have seen the blinds, right? Curtain blinds. You would see multiple lines coming out of that endometrial area and passing all through like sun rays.
Fan-shaped shading.
Yes. Okay. And what about fibroid? Ultrasound findings in case of fibroid.
Findings of fibroid.
Ultrasound findings typical of fibroid. What am I asking?
Solid homogeneous circumscribed lesion, well demarcated lesion.
The echogenesis or hypoechoic, hyperechoic, what?
Is usually slightly hyperechoic.
Hypo. Fibroids are hypoechoic. They are darker than the other uterine biometric that you look at. Yes. And they typically give a cone-shaped shadow. Like, yes, it typically gives cone-shaped shadow. Okay. Over to Ashish Bhai for the management part. We are not able to listen you. आशीष सर शायद आपने म्यूट किया होगा.
No, sir.
Rohit
We
sir,
are not able to hear you, Ashish.
Unmute करो.
Rohit sir, I am trying to connect to Ashish sir. Meanwhile, you may please continue.
Yes. So, okay. So, let's talk about your case. If you find ultrasound, you find thin endometrium. The endometrium, then how will you manage, or how will you further proceed with?
Sorry, sir, you are.
Hello.
Yes,
please.
Can you please repeat?
On ultrasound, in this particular case, you find a thinner endometrium, thin line endometrium. Then how would you manage?
You have to confirm the LMP. So
First. So we
What treatment you would offer to this patient? If
So first, irrespective of endometrial thickening, we would like to take a biopsy. Even if endometrium is thin, we would still like to take a biopsy. And if it is if biopsy is normal, then we would like to first treat her with estrogen.
Prime the endometrium using estrogen. And
then give progesterone at back of the cycle.
You would put her on estrogen, and for how many days?
The estrogen from we would start estrogen from day 1, and then we would add progesterone on day 15 to 25 of the cycle, either 15 to 25 or day 5 to day 25 of her cycle.
Let's say you find 12 mm endometrium in this case? 12 mm size, 12 mm. Then what will it?
After taking the
biopsy,
biopsy,
we
we
start
would like to give
progesterone.
progesterone therapy.
On
And we will
progesterone. Reports are on progesterone.
Yes.
Okay. What kind of progesterone therapy you can offer her?
We can start with oral progesterone, oral cyclical progesterone. So medroxyprogesterone acetate 5 to 10 mg BD, or we can start with norethisterone 5 to 10 mg BD from day 5 to 26 or 15 to 25, any cyclical therapy. Or we could offer her a levonorgestrel IV.
What is the? Can I ask Rohit sir? Hello.
Yes, of course, Divesh. Yes.
What is the role of norethindrone acetate, and what is the difference between norethindrone acetate and norethisterone? So, what is the benefit of norethindrone acetate?
Sorry, sir.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
We don't know, sir. Sorry, sir.
Sorry, sir. We don't know.
So norethindrone acetate contain some amount of the estrogen, so it is helpful in anovulatory bleeding of mainly AUBO type. So it is very good in for management of the AUBO type of the irregular menstruation. Okay. Yeah. So what is the role of injectable estrogen in AUB nowadays?
If a patient presents with acute bleeding, and if it turns out on TBS, if endometrium is thin, then it can probably be atrophic. Considering it atrophic, we can give for acute control of hemorrhage after stabilizing the patient, we can give IV conjugated equine estrogen 25 milligram IV 4 hourly for 24 hours, and then
shift to oral.
6
to 8 hourly.
So can anybody tell me about the various histopathological findings of dilatation and curettage, and what is the role of office histoscopy and EB curate for taking biopsy in case of AUB?
Various histopathology report of DNCs, secretory endometrium, proliferative endometrium. There is endometrial hyperplasia without atypia and with atypia. Cystic glandular hyperplasia.
It can be neoplasia, adenocarcinoma, atrophic. Or it can be a patchy secretory cells, patchy secretory endometrium in proliferative endometrium. And so in
conduct endometrial biopsy with the help of people.
On OPD basis, we can collect it through PIPL or aspiration cytology, followed by we can also do
hysteroscopic ANC
So what is your preference in OPD patient, whether you go for office histoscopy, dilatation and curettage, or endometrial biopsy curate for taking biopsy?
First preference is availability of office hysteroscopy. We
Very
will
good.
under vision, yes. So that focal lesions are not missed. If
Okay, so suppose one patient of 40 years old and she has AUB, she has undergone dysfunctional uterine bleeding and report suggestive of grade 1 endometrial well-differentiated carcinoma. She has completed her family. What is the plan of management now?
So we will go for total abdominal hysterectomy with bilateral oophorectomy without adjuvant therapy because it's grade 1 well differentiated, so no need to give adjuvant therapy. And we will follow up this patient for 2 years, 3 to 6 monthly clinical examination.
Not not by ultrasonography, only clinical examination.
With ultrasonography.
Yes.
Okay, so is it necessary to remove the ovary in well-differentiated carcinoma? Suppose patient wants ovary, then is it must to remove ovaries in patient of well-differentiated carcinoma, endometrial carcinoma?
It
Is it
is
necessary
better to
or
remove, but if the patient wants, we'll
And
have
if
to
the
ask
ovaries
her
are
for
not diseased
follow-up.
with CA 125,
25,
we can follow up the patient.
okay, good.
If there is a
Okay.
high risk factor like family history of HNPCC, then we have to remove ovary.
You have to advise
So
for this.
there are many adolescent patients in OPD. So okay, I want to ask one question. What is the relevance of age of menarche to the abnormal uterine bleeding? Any
Sir,
idea?
if it is early onset of menarche, then her chances of endometrial hyperplasia in later age increases.
Prolonged
Due to prolonged estrogen exposure.
Okay. Rohit sir.
One question: if a nulliparous woman is diagnosed with like histopathology after DNC, she's found to have atypia, like hypertrophy with atypia. So in that case, what would you do? A nulliparous woman.
So depending on her age, if she wants
Future childbearing, then high dose progesterone or LNG-IU can be offered, but if she does not want future childbearing, then surgical management is advised. If there is no need of future childbearing, or if
Would you not like to follow up her with?
Yes, routine follow.
6 monthly or annually, we should follow up.
Yes. We can offer a close follow-up to such patients or in like 6 months. And yes, meanwhile, she can even try for conception.
Yes,
No
it will
issues.
be better.
If she conceives, that's a good thing for her. That would be a good thing for her. That itself would be a kind of treatment for her. And yes, Ashish sir, आपका
हाँ, Ashish sir.
can we have
Unmute yourself, I think. He has not unmuted.
Hello.
Okay, yes.
All right, so I missed out some portion of discussion because of the technical issue. But anyways, the students are doing well. If we can go back to basics, can you define acute and chronic AUB?
Acute AUB is one which affects her present social, emotional, or physical status due to bleeding, and chronic AUB is in any significant change in her bleeding pattern since
frequency
in the past 6 months.
In absence of pregnancy,
So
there will be
it's-
changes in respiratory duration, volume, and frequency.
So it is for the most of the past 6 months, right? That's what the definition says.
Most of the
Yes. Coming to the discussion on differentiation between adenomyosis and fibroid, which Rohit sir were asking, there is something known as morphological sonographic uterine assessment criteria, or MUSA criteria. You have defined most of them, but it has become more objective, and it says that out of those 7 criteria, if 2 or more are present, then it's going in favor of adenomyosis. So that was one thing which I wanted to ask. You have also discussed the management of fibroid partially. Are you aware of the classification for taking a decision about management of submucous fibroid? It's something known as STEP W classification.
Step
STEP W classification.
Step W. Less than 4 hysteroscopy.
That talks of the size of the I'm talking of a submucous myoma that talks of the size of leiomyoma, the location within the uterine cavity of the leiomyoma, its endometrial attachment, its penetration into the endometrium, and the lateral wall involvement. The score has been given, the total score is calculated, and the first 2 categories, that is between 0 to 4 score, hysteroscopy can be done. Between 5 to 7, hysteroscopy can be done, but maybe with the GnRH antagonist treatment prior to that. And beyond 7, hysteroscopy is not advisable even if it's submucous myoma. So this is something which has come up in the last few years, which you should be knowing as postgraduate students. Coming to management of endometrial hyperplasia, what is the recent change in the traditional classification for endometrial hyperplasia?
Sir, earlier it was simple hyperplasia with or without atypia and complex with or without atypia. Now the term simple and complex has been removed. It is only either endometrial hyperplasia with atypia or without atypia.
And why that change has been made?
Because the management does not change whether it is simple with atypia or complex with atypia. It stays the same.
And what percentage of endometrial hyperplasia are going to be the complex type of hyperplasia?
If it's with atypia, it's 10 to 30% risk to convert in endometrial carcinoma, and if it's without atypia, then 1 to 3% reduction in endometrial carcinoma.
And I'm not sure, have you discussed the details of the PALM-Cohen, particularly the Cohen aspect of AUD? If one of you can elaborate on Cohen aspect of the PALM-Cohen classification and treatment for each one of them.
Cohen are the non-structural causes of abnormal uterine bleeding, COEIN. C is for coagulopathy. It is due to any bleeding disorder or abnormality in the coagulation pathway. O is ovulatory dysfunction. It includes DUB or anovulatory or ovulatory causes. Then there's E for endometrial causes. It includes inflammation, infection of the endometrium. I is for iatrogenic causes, the drugs, any type of drug which causes abnormal uterine bleeding. And N is
not otherwise specified.
Correct. So management of the C has been, coagulopathy has been discussed. What is the management for E and I? If you can elaborate a bit on that.
For E, we'll take a cervical swab, and if we find any specific infection, we'll treat for the same. We can even send the endometrial biopsy for CB-NAT if we are suspecting genital tuberculosis, and we can start with AKT. Then iatrogenic will stop the drug first of all, and then we'll wait and see if there's improvement in the symptom. We'll continue, or if it is not yet improving, we'll think of adding progesterone support, or depending on what symptoms she still presents with.
And sir, OCPs are the most common cause of iatrogenic uterine bleeding. So prolonged use of OCP can cause endometrium to be atrophic. So even because of that, she can have abnormal uterine bleeding. So we can increase the estrogen dose of OCPs. And
so what should be the dose of estrogen when you are changing to a higher dose from a lower dose? Minimum required dose of estrogen in that pill?
10 microgram
10
minimum.
Is minimum. 50 microgram is maximum.
High
dose
OCP.
No, but when you are changing, the minimum dose should be 35 microgram per pill of the OCPs. That is what you should keep in mind.
Yes.
Have you discussed the role of LNG-IUS in the management of AUD?
Yes.
That has been discussed already.
What is Skyla study? Anyone know the Skyla study?
So sorry, sir.
So suppose patient is young, adolescent girl, and she has AUB, then uterus size is not adequate for the LNG IUD. So the size of the available IUD or LNG IUD is small, and that is known as Skyla in USA. And the study has been performed. So this study is known as basically for Skyla study, that is for the management of AUB in adolescent girl. So one simple question on OPD basis: how do you assess or how do you assess the amount of the blood loss during menses? What are the
There are
methods?
objective and subjective methods of blood loss assessment. Objective, it is theoretically there is alkali hematin method, but it is not used because it is not feasible
What is
in OPD
alkaline
cases.
hematin method? Why it is known as alkaline hematin method?
Sir, by sodium hydroxide, adding sodium hydroxide on it changes.
Hemoglobin changes into hematine.
By
Into hematin. That's why it is known as alkaline hematin method. Okay. Then other methods.
Pictorial assessment of blood chart.
Okay.
By this, we will assess the blood loss by how much soap
Pad.
it is.
Or passage of clots, size of clots.
Okay.
Minimal, moderate, and fully soaked pad 1, 5, 20. And if there is passage of small clots, there's 1. Large clots is 5.
And
So
flooding is
25.
So we
More
add
than 100 is
minority.
So more than, according to
100.
PBSC, more than 100 is known as heavy menstrual bleeding. Okay. What is the new classification, FIGO 2018 classification of AUB? Do you know? It is based on?
Sir, it gives a frequency
Previously, yes, frequency. Very good.
frequency
Yes.
of 24 to 38 days. Then
Okay.
volume is 5 to 80 ml. Then cycle variation is less than or equal to 7 to 9 days. And regularity is,
Regularity.
And duration is less than equal to 8 days.
Yes,
It's
and
not
volume
normal.
is 5 to 8 ml.
Okay.
So what are you planning for
Wait.
this patient now? What are you going to do with this patient?
So first we would, as we said, so first we would like to do UPT to rule out pregnancy. Then after the blood investigations, we will take first do TVS, and then TVS, irrespective of whatever the finding is in TVS, we'll first rule out structural anomaly on TVS and then take endometrial biopsy for the functional causes of AUB. And based on what is endometrial biopsy report, we will like to further investigate. If there are structural causes on TBS, then we would like to manage accordingly. Polyp, adenomyosis, or fibroid, and if it is if it turns out to be endometrial hyperplasia, and if it is without atypia, first we will give medical management. If it is
Hematinics, as she's pale, so
and if it is with atypia, then we would like to undergo
management according
surgical
to
staging,
grades.
and yes.
Equal stage.
Is there any significance of social and family history in patient of AUB?
Family
History is important as
HNP.
far as concerning HPNCC.
HNPCC.
Lynch syndrome.
If she has the history, then we would first we would also do follow up of the patient, even if it is if there is no endometrial hyperplasia, still we would like to screen and follow up the patient 6 months.
So one is HNPCC, then other family history, other any significant family history.
Endometrial cancer or ovarian cancer.
malignancy or endometrial malignancy.
Which is most common ovarian cancer that is responsible for AUB in young girl?
Granular
And
cell
why?
tumor.
Why?
Estrogen secreting tumor. So
Estrogenic
excess.
Good. So family history of I guess thyroid disorder and leukemia
Yes.
is also, bleeding disorders is also important. So how thyroid is responsible for hypothyroidism is responsible for abnormal uterine bleeding?
There is
TRH and
releasing
GH.
hormone. Thyrotropin releasing hormone.
Okay, then
And
suppose there is hypothyroidism, increased TSH, then how it causes abnormal uterine bleeding?
There is increased TSH, which will decrease the release of TRH. TRH
Okay.
and GnRH are structural analogs
of each other.
There
Yes.
will be decreased GnRH release, which will affect FSH-LH. So there will be N ovulation due to estrogen, increase estrogen, then there will be an ovulated
ovulated
cycle
cycle
leading
and
to
it will
menstruation.
cause
Okay, good.
Excuse me, sir.
Rohit sir.
Sorry to interrupt.
Akshay.
We have 5 more minutes to go.
Okay.
Okay, Kirtan.
One last question. Let's say a 24 years old nulliparous woman comes to your OPD saying, I have infrequent cycles, infrequent periods.
Sorry,
Sorry. Sorry.
we can't hear you, sir.
Hello.
Yes,
Am I
sir.
audible now? Huh.
Yes, sir.
Let's say one 24 years old nulliparous woman comes to your OPD saying, I have irregular periods and it is sometimes heavy, sometimes scanty. How would you approach to this patient?
After doing
Married,
UP,
nulliparous, married, and 24 years old.
so after ruling out pregnancy,
Pregnancy test.
we'll do a TVS scan and check if there is any chances of PCO because
Polycystic
typical
ovaries,
history of
general examination, and
How would you counsel? Means what would you explain? What would you offer her? How would you counsel?
weight loss.
First, lifestyle modification would be asked regarding the weight loss,
Physical
diet
exercise.
modification.
What I mean to ask you is, would we consider her fertility?
we will ask her to conceive if she can. It is better for her, so that it will.
Yes, after ruling out all other causes, I would offer directly to conceive. I will go for ovulation induction. I will AUBO. I will suspect AUBO in that case, and I will treat accordingly. I will counsel her for conception. That will solve her problem. I think
Most common, last question. Most common investigations you advise in patient of AUB. Any patient of AUB, whether she is adolescent or more than 20-year-old. Most common investigation.
Pregnancy test.
And
First,
thyroid,
okay.
CBC.
CBC.
thyroid profile,
Okay.
And if
prolactin
it's
levels,
a young female, we'll prefer for
coagulation
coagulation
profile.
And also,
and so
we will
USG.
first also rule out PCOS because it is a common
By
cause.
ultrasonography.
It is very common in the present scenario. So
TVS more than full bladder TVS.
Last question from my side. Newer molecules on horizon in the treatment of AUB.
sir, new molecule.
Mirena.
Yes.
Mirena Levonorgestrel
intravenous system.
LNG is already there. I said on the horizon. They are there.
Any kind of AUB.
Newer management.
GnRH agonist.
Selective progesterone receptor modulators. Yeah. So Uliprestor and other series of molecules are coming on the way. Maybe when you are into clinical practice, they all would be there available to you to practice and treat the patients. Anyways, I would like to give concluding remarks. All of you were wonderful. This exercise is to build up your confidence and to have you an experience how the exam goes. And all the best to all of you for your future career. And thank you to AOGS for conducting such a wonderful program. Thank you, Akshay sir, Jignesh bhai, Kirtan bhai, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So, some concluding remarks from Rohit sir and Divesh bhai.
Thank you, Kirtan and all, Akshay bhai and all AOGS members, committee members, for conducting such an informative sessions. And I'm honored that I am a part of this. And all the best. I would extend best wishes to all the parents, future gynecologists. Thank you.
So I thank you AOGS and Muta Sahib, Akshay sir, Rohit sir, Kirtan sir, and Munjal for giving me opportunity. And students, I guess already have passed the gynec examination, PG examination. So all the best for the examination. Thank you.
दिव्य सर हमारा
हाँ बोलो साहब अक्षय सर.
दिव्य सर हमारा एलसीबी માં મેલિગ્નન્સી ની સરસ મજાની લેબ
તો તમે GCS માં મોકલી આપો કરી દેજો સર.
તમારે અમારે ત્યાં એને શીખવાડવાની અમને
100% સાહેબ બોલાવો. હા
કઈક વાર અમને બોલાવશું લેપ્રોસ્કોપિક સર્જરી કરવા. થેન્ક યુ સર.
Thank you sir. Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you so much once again, all the eminent experts, and your inputs must have benefited our students so well. And thank you again, Team AOGS, and my all the best wishes to entire team of students. So now I would, I would invite Dr. Munjal to have this Thanksgiving ceremony, the vote of thanks.
Sorry Munjal, मैं late join था.
અક્ષય ભાઈ મેં પ્રાઇવેટ મેસેજ કર્યું તમને તમે જોયું નહીં.
જોઈ લઉં સર, સોરી.
Dr. Munjal there. May I invite our Jignesh Deliwala sir, President of AOGS, to have some concluding remarks from him. Now I would invite Dr. Akshay sir.
Yes sir.
For vote of thanks sir, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you to AGS, Dr. Jignesh bhai, for conducting such a wonderful seminar, which everything said and done fully that is being useful to all the students here together. And this is again going to be useful. As Dr. Ashish for that, this is the kind of a rehearsal which helps to boost up the confidence and matters that does matter. Thank you everybody for joining, and thank you for sparing your. Thank you, PG.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody.
So with this, we conclude our first session of PG Symposium, and the next session dates and the topics and the experts will be declared very soon. Till then, keep reading and keep going. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Good night, everyone.